Hello guys, this is Jay. Welcome to my channel. So in this vlog, I'm going to be talking about who I was in the past before I started my journey, especially with content creating. So while I go by the name Jay, because that name just feels right to me, my real name is Jared Blaine Hickman. I was born and raised in Maryville, Louisiana. Well, not born in Maryville. I was born in Lake Charles, but then was raised up. I grew up in Maryville, which is a small town. Of course, growing up as a kid, I had issues with expressing my thoughts and feelings. Of course, some people thought I was autistic. I might be, but I don't know. I changed my diet, been doing a lot of meditation, so I don't feel like I'm that person that I was when I was a kid. But anyways, growing up as a kid, I had a few friends, and I did try to fit in. Like when I saw everyone behave a certain way, I was trying to behave that way, but it was almost like people didn't find my approval. But at the same time, like, I really didn't like being around people. The only reason why I was trying to fit in is because my mom wanted me to fit in. And when I graduated, me and my cousin were really close at the time. He introduced me to his circle of friends, and that was a life-changing experience because I met a large group of people who thought differently than the ones back at home. And I enjoy the experience of being with them. And of course, when I started hanging out with them, I started drinking and smoking every day, just about. And then one day I went to jail with my cousin and his other friend. And pretty much what got me out of that was because I told them I was going to join the military. Of course, I didn't join right then and there. I joined 2 years later when I was 22. And I have to say, during my time in the military, it was very tough and rigorous. Very tense, a lot of testosterone, especially if you were infantry or 11 Bravo, which is the MOS. I was in the Army. You have a lot of, like alpha male mentality, very disciplined, right place, right time, right uniform. I mean, it's taught me a lot in the military. It taught me a lot about discipline and how to overcome hardships, especially on those 25-mile ruck marches, carrying a 240. Of course, I learned a few things when I was in there too. I learned how to drive a Bradley. That was fun. Of course, the biggest pitfall I found in the military is that while it was it was tough and rigorous, but there was a lot of narcissism in the Army. Of course, I guess that's what to expect, especially from, in my MOS. I met a lot of good friends in the military though. Probably one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, you know. They always have your six, no matter where you go. And then when I call them, they always reach out or call back, no matter where we are in the world. And then after I finished the Army, finished my contract, which was 3 years, I decided I was stuck between two paths: culinary or video game development. I decided to go with culinary first because I started cooking and everybody loved my cooking. So after I got out of the military, I decided to go to Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts in Dillard Circle in Austin, Texas. Of course, I met some friends there too, but again, like anytime I hang out with people, they always want to drink, go party, and of course, that was my biggest flaw at the time. I was always a people pleaser. It's not really what I want to do. It's just what I want to do for others. And that's something I kind of learned from my mom, is that she's a people pleaser. And I didn't know what boundaries were. So, I just decided to go with the flow with things, just listening to what everybody else says. And I spend pretty much most of my money, like when I was earning that BAH from my GI Bill. And then I started developing panic attacks during my culinary journey. And I think it had to do with the military. I was end up, like when I was working at places, getting rejected by them or getting fired because I just wasn't handling the pace they were going at. So one day I stopped hanging out with some people, started meditating for once in my life. And this person, who the one that introduced this to me, was no other than Sadhguru. He was a person that really transformed my life because I didn't know how to change my thoughts. And thanks to him, I was able to learn how to rewire my brain. And then while I was doing my meditation and fasting for the first time, and I changed my diet to a vegan diet, like I started feeling, my brain detoxing. Like it put me underneath a sleep spell. Like I had to lay down and do nothing in order for me and focus on my breath to overcome this detox I was going through. I could feel all the impurities getting pushed out. And then while I was doing this, there was an opportunity for working at an externship at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. I was really excited about this because Disney always had that magical vibe to it. And it was right, Of course, it was the interview was pretty tough. At least the chef there was pretty tough about it. but I was able to get that externship that I really wanted for Disney World. And so once I finished culinary school, I finally arrived at Disney World in the apartment complex. Of course, each apartment complex holds up to at least 6 people. But the good news was it was culturally diverse, meaning like I was meeting people from around the world. Like it was really exciting to me because, I get to see people in like a different perspective, or seeing their outlook on life a little differently. Of course, I had some French roommates that really didn't like to talk to other people. I think that's because they didn't speak French. But a lot of the Canadians I met, they were a lot of easygoing people. Very laid back, very chill, very polite. And then the Norwegians, they like to drink a lot, I would say. But they were really kind people. During on my journey through that, I remember I used to be like really obsessed with Japanese culture. So I stayed in Epcot at Japan Pavilion almost every day, and then I was trying to. What was funny is like I really wanted a Japanese girlfriend, so I was keep on chasing, and then it was almost like I was running them off. And then when I was practicing my meditation, I was like, wait a minute, why do I have to chase? And I felt it in my heart. And I was like, you're going to get yourself a Japanese woman. Just sit patiently, don't chase. She'll come to you. When I finally did that, a few weeks later, I met my ex. Very beautiful Japanese woman. Of course, she was like 8 years older than me. I think 8 years. Was she 8? 6 years. No, 6 years older than me. 8 or 6, I don't remember. But she looks younger than me. Of course, we had a blast, and then I stopped drinking for a while. And then when I started working at oh, by the way, my externship, I worked at Tusker House in Animal Kingdom, Crystal Palace in Magic Kingdom, and Leaning Palms in Typhoon Lagoon. And I started drinking again when I worked at Crystal Palace and Magic Kingdom. Probably because I was staying up later than usual and it was affecting my sleep patterns. When I was working at Tusker House, I did the morning shift, so I had a good sleep routine. I went to bed like around 8, which is I'm doing today, or I've been going, and that's been helping with my sleep and well-being. And then eventually, I worked at Disney World for about a year and decided to head back home because I missed my friends and family back in Southeast Texas. And I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but like after I graduated high school, I went to Southeast Texas, and that was my or apparently they're not my circle of friends anymore. I don't know what happened, but well, I guess I'll explain that in a little bit. Actually, I do know. When I head back home, I started drinking and smoking weed again. And of course, tried some other things I'm not too proud of. like other substances that, of course, the only time I would ever do it is when I'm drinking. And of course, me and my ex, we were dating at the time, and then we saw each other back and forth. I went to Japan and saw her family, and that was a beautiful experience with its own self. Like, Japan I felt a sense of nostalgia when I was experiencing it. But too bad the stay was too short, and it was time for me to head back home. And then COVID hits, and me and Kiko didn't really have a chance to see each other again for 2 years. And then even after 2 years, she started going to school, and I started going to school. Which is, I went to game art at Full Sail University. And once I finished game arts, like, there was things that were happening back at home, or when I was doing online or school for Full Sail, which was flexible. I could have had better quality work if I didn't drink and smoke all the time, prioritizing other people over myself. And then one day, me and my cousin and his friends, we kind of got into it. I had a mental breakdown. Stopped talking to him for over a year. I ended up getting kicked out of my apartment because of just not paying the bills. Was just extremely depressed. Ended up living with one of my friends for a bit till I used a HUD vash. Stayed in Houston for a bit until my mom asked me to come back to help her with Pawpaw, because he has Parkinson's and sundowners, and he didn't have much life left to him. And so I went back and took care of Pawpaw for 6 months, and that was 6 months of hell, I would say. The reason being was because I had to stay up all night for 6 months, and it caused me to put on weight. And of course, I was drinking really hard. And during that time, I lost more friends. They straight up ghosted me. Of course, I was at a point when I was drinking, like, I wasn't remembering things. And I was drinking every single day. And it didn't help that I was staying up all night either. After that happened, I stayed with my grandmother for a couple of years. Or that's before, like a year after my pawpaw passed away, or I think it was actually 6 months after he passed away, me and my ex broke up. I don't think we share the same interests anymore. And I kind of saw this one coming too. And of course, I tried to reach out to those people that that had nothing to do with me, and there was no luck. And so I spent the last year, or a little bit over a year, between 2024 and then till late April of 2025. I was laying down, had my eyes closed, hoping one day that they'll never open again. Until one day, I decided to I felt that voice again. I felt that sensation. It said, surrender yourself to me. And so I did. And it told me to quit drinking and smoking. And I did that. And 2 weeks after that, I saw this beautiful woman on YouTube. Oh, and let me rewind back 6 months before I encountered this person. I remember I wanted a partner, best friend, girlfriend, eventually wife. Of course, I'm thinking way too ahead. Having met this person yet, so call me crazy, but I feel like we have this connection somehow. Just it hasn't blossomed yet. I remember 6 months I was talking about want to be a content creator and travel the world. I really love Japan, and it just so happened that this woman also loves to travel. She's a content creator. She's very ambitious. She seems like it. She also loves going to Japan. She's been there multiple times. And I don't know what happened, but I had this, what you call a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And it was just paranormal. It was the most craziest experience I ever had in my life. I felt energy shooting up my spine. Felt my heart opening up for the first time. This unconditional love feeling. Felt my throat unblocking for the first time. Felt pressure in my head area, and then I felt this calming sensation. And then I felt like I was one with everything. I cannot, and the moment I saw her was the moment that my life started falling apart in a good way. I'm really following the flow of life. I started exercising not because of her, but because I want to. Just like how I started content creating because I wanted to, not because for her. And then I left. My body moved on its own. Left June 11th of 2025 with no plan. And now I'm here. If you guys made it this far in the video, I really do appreciate it. That helps my content being pushed out. I'm not the perfect person. I don't try to script things when I talk, so there might be some things I miss or forgot to explain to you guys, or I might miss some information. So what I'll probably do in the future is probably redo this video again and probably have more detail than what I had before. What I'm trying to do each and every day is learn how to speak without rehearsing, and just while I'm doing it, record myself. So you guys can see how I've progressed each and every day with my speaking skills. Because I'm naturally an introvert, and I have a hard time expressing my thoughts. But hey, one step at a time. Thank you guys for being a part of my journey. I really do appreciate it. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.